Hello and welcome to One Man's Opinion. Today I'm reviewing the new off-Broadway play Someone Spectacular, written by Domenica Feraud and directed by Tatiana Pandiani, running through September 7th at the Pershing Square Signature Center at 480 West 42nd Street in New York City. Do something spectacular for me by becoming a patron over on my Patreon page, where you can, for as little as $1 a month, support my work here as well as my classic cinema podcast, Yesterday's Matinee. The latest episode, The Big Chill, is currently available for patrons only. There are also retro reviews from my time in print news to check out and some restaurant reviews. A link is in the description. Apparently therapy is in. This is the second new play in a matter of weeks or so that I've seen centered around therapy. The other one being the Broadway play Job, which, if you saw my review on it, you know I wasn't much of a fan of. Thankfully, Someone Spectacular is a much better piece, though granted there is some expositional elements that are conceded for the sake of the audience understanding who the characters are. The play is set as a grief therapy group session where the 6 members gather, but lo and behold, their therapist never arrives. Standard procedure dictates that they're not supposed to start the session without the therapist, nor even really talk to each other without her there. But these aren't people who necessarily have the best judgment and thus attempt to hold their session without their therapist. They don't even have the common sense to call their therapist to see where she is and if she's okay until halfway through the play. What results is an intense, darkly funny piece where the 6 group members share who they are and attempt to help each other without boundaries or restriction that would traditionally be set by a therapist. I'm not going to say that this is a wise way for a group to be held, and I think that any therapist would likely discourage such discourse. As I said before, this is a grief therapy group, so each person is suffering from some kind of loss. Much of the conflict comes from Nelle, played by Alison, Cimmet, who presents as the alpha of the group. Her feelings towards other people's grief tend to be judgmental, feeling that the loss some of the other people have had does not compare to her loss with her sister, because she and her sister have spent their entire lives together. She holds particular disdain towards Jude, played by Delia Cunningham, who is dealing with the grief of losing her unborn child through a miscarriage. Also in the group is Lily, a bitterly angry actress who has lost her mom, played by Anna Cruz Kane. Julian, a college-bound student who lost his aunt, who was a surrogate mother to him. Tom, a grieving widower, played by Damian Young, and Evelyn, an enigmatic woman who has lost her mother and has a chronic cough that grows more concerning throughout, played by Gamze Ceylan. Why Someone Spectacular works is because the characters are all relatable to some degree. We all have that Nelle in our lives who tries to control everything within our influence. We know the meek, tender friend who never seems to catch a break like Jude. We know the struggling young would-be academic who feels conflicted about wanting to go to college but not wanting to abandon family in their time of need, like Julian. We know the person who feels like life has always stuck them behind the 8 ball and is fed up with it all, like Lily. We know the person who watches their spouse erode away to cancer, like Tom. We know the person who has spent their life under the thumb of a parent, like Evelyn. These familiar characters allow us access to empathize with them and better understand why they are who they are, in part due to their grief, and that there's more to them than what they present on the surface. The characters learn this too as they struggle to understand why each other grieve. The show has an excellent ensemble. Each cast member presents their own defined idea of each character. Alison Cimmet in particular stands out as the dominant Nelle. Gamze Ceylan also shines as someone who is readily empathetic but strong enough to not be bullied by anyone. The play occasionally has a supernatural element that affects the group, a flickering light, a distant beeping sound eerily similar to a vital signs monitor at a hospital. That'll be up for you to interpret who is causing that from the afterlife. And also it'll be up to you to determine whether you think this is even necessary as a story element. I like it. I kind of like the idea that there are people or someone who is related to this group somehow that is influencing them in how they discourse with each other. These little elements seem to point to certain characters, and I'm not going to hazard a theory as to what it all means here, as it would lead to spoilers. But there are elements and connections that I think Pandiani and Feraud want us to make between the characters. At the moment, I'm leaving things as open to interpretation as possible to see what it all means. I have my thoughts, but I wouldn't want to influence your experience with the play that way in case you come to a different conclusion. Oona Curley's lighting design and Mikaal Sulaiman's sound design are paramount in making these little effects work so that we can experience these moments of the supernatural, and they work with subtle, exacting influence on the scene. Someone Spectacular is a smart, bold piece of theater. It's sensitive but not melancholic. It's darkly funny but not mean-spirited. Its characters wear their hearts on their sleeves and allow us to see how grief can be different for everyone, and that it can be just as important for one person as it is for another, and how we can connect and grow through that grief. But I'm only one man's opinion, so be sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you'd like to see Someone Spectacular, I'll leave a link in the description where you can get tickets. Also in the description will be a link to my Patreon page, so be sure to check that out when you get a chance as well if you want to support my work. You can also support this show by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and click the notification bell to be alerted to future reviews. I'm not sure what my next review will be. It's a particularly slow time of the year. Right now it looks like it'll be Goodspeed Musical's new musical Maggie, which isn't scheduled until early September, so it looks like I'll be able to take some time to work on some yesterday's matinee podcast. Until then, thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.